Max is 1 foot off the door with Red Bull. Mercedes is suffering reliability issues. Ferrari's kind of actually performing pretty well, and the silly season is about to start any moment now. The 2026 season has ruffled some feathers and unsettled the grid and the paddock ever since it first started. Let's backtrack a little bit and head into these topics one by one, because there's quite a lot to talk about. Let's start with Mercedes. Kimi and George are both gunning for their maiden championship wins, and the Mercedes car cannot keep up. At this point in the season, reliability concerns have cost crucial points. Mercedes nearly had a chokehold on both the World Drivers' Championship and the World Constructors' Championship. Although they have the overall best car package, they're at risk of losing both championships. The lead is not as comfortable as they'd want it to be. Then you've got Ferrari, who's actually getting their act together, especially after they've now won 2 of the last 3 races. Races I believe Mercedes really could have won had their car not started tweaking out within the last 10 laps. The car development is finally starting to show promising results, and Ferrari arguably has the most dangerous driving pairing on the entire grid. Hamilton's driving style is actually coexisting with the car pretty well. Hamilton brings experience, he's pushing the car development in the right direction, and he has a talent to be able to grab the most consistent results every chance he gets. And with Charles now, he finally bought himself out of this most recent slump. Now, this take is going to be hot. But Charles is probably getting the biggest challenge he's ever had from a teammate since his debut, and he needs this. The only way for a driver to truly develop is when they have a challenge, whether that's a championship rivalry or a very high-performing teammate. And for Leclerc, unfortunately, he hasn't had the chance to do a championship rivalry for a full year, but Hamilton's given Leclerc that motivation he needs to find just a little bit more performance within himself. Think back to when Max contended with Hamilton for championship. He had to find some ways to develop himself as a driver, and look where he's at now. Even Lando Norris from 2024, he didn't have the most mature driving style. 2025, he put the pieces together and grabbed the championship. Even from 2024, when Oscar had a high-performing teammate, and now 2025, he was able to capitalize on what he learned to also contend for the championship. These types of challenges are necessary if you want to make sure you're getting to the highest up on the podium. And for Leclerc, he's able to start using this amount of motivation to get rid of that plateau he's had for so long in his driving ability. He was never a bad driver, but he just wasn't the best he could be yet. But now, with the direction that Ferrari's heading, even if they don't clutch a championship this year, it's only a matter of time. It's bound to come soon. Now taking some of that attention to Max Verstappen Racing, otherwise known as Red Bull, they're genuinely getting a wake-up call right now. The lack of performance, loss of fundamental staff, and an inconsistent rear wing, Red Bull's got a lot of challenges that they're facing in the garage rather than on the track. If you haven't been tapped in for too long, Red Bull has seen a mass exodus of important staff over these last 2 years. Helmut Marko, Gianpiero Lambiase, Jonathan Wheatley. These are all notable names which have now left Red Bull. Speaking of which, has anyone heard anything about Jonathan? I remember a notification coming out of him leaving Audi earlier this year, potentially heading to Aston Martin, nothing finalized. Haven't heard from him since. Like, can someone comment, please make sure we know he's okay? My point here being is that Red Bull team that we're seeing now is not the same team that we've seen since they launched, and Max Verstappen is noticing this too. He's extremely unhappy with the current state of the team, which has led sources to link him with other teams, most notably McLaren. McLaren is the same team that his race engineer, Jean-Pierre, is going to go to when his Red Bull contract ends around 2028. And let's say Max decides to just leave Red Bull and not F1 entirely, that's most likely the team that he'll end up going to. We'll definitely get further into the driving market in just a second here, but I definitely have another take that's for sure going to be pretty hot. But I think Red Bull's entering a new era for the team, and despite what the headlines are saying, they're actually carrying quite a bit of momentum under this new phase with Laurent Mekies. They've got a strong in-house engine, a second driver who's actually able to grab points, and despite a slow start to catch the front runners, on their best days, they're able to contend with Mercedes. Yes, they were facing some reliability issues. No, they weren't the fastest car to hit the track, but it's a brand new regulation season. Nearly every team is facing this type of concern one way or another. Whether you want to give Red Bull sympathy or not, Max ain't having it. Heading back to Max's potential switch, how will this affect the rest of the grid? As mentioned, the team Max has the highest chance of switching to would be McLaren if that does happen. But whose seat will he take? As much as it hurts to admit, Piastri would be the driver they'd move out the way to welcome in Verstappen. We all know that Lando is to McLaren what Leclerc is to Ferrari. But then where would Oscar go? Honestly, the best case scenario is a direct swap. McLaren receives Max, Red Bull receives Oscar. Especially because Max has ties to McLaren because his race engineer is going there. Plus, what team wouldn't want to accept Max? And Oscar Piastri's manager, Mark Webber, used to drive for Red Bull in the past. So there may be some hidden connections there that can make it a little bit more convenient. And I genuinely think that this would be healthy for Oscar. Not to say that McLaren isn't a healthy environment, but we know sometimes local papaya rules tiptoed along the lines of favoritism. And not too many cases benefited Oscar. And in comparison, Oscar goes to Red Bull, which is already a team undergoing reform anyway. It'll give him the chance to genuinely grow with the top performing team and take role as a lead driver. But there's a caveat. Red Bull is a team that's not known for having the best job stability. Unless you're Max Verstappen. There are already heavy talks of potentially taking Nikola Solov and putting him in a V-Carb seat for 2027. Now, do I take this rumor seriously? Not just yet. V-Carb just promoted Arvid this year, and Lawson's their most experienced driver who's putting up consistent results, comfortably leading the midfield. It just wouldn't make sense for V-Carb to ditch their most experienced driver who's getting them good results, or drop their new talent who's still able to keep up with their said experienced driver. The only way I really see this change happening is if Oscar maybe doesn't end up at Red Bull, they move Lawson up to Red Bull, and then now they bring Solov up to V-Carb. Another driver who's not too happy with their current fitting is Carlos Sainz. After finding out he was losing his seat to Hamilton in 2025, Carlos had to scramble around the grid to find a team who was going to be able to sign him. There were several talks, but the one that assured him the most was with Williams. And that was primarily because they had so many promises for what their 2026 campaign would look like. And fast forward a few years, and the only reason Williams isn't getting roasted too hard is because you got teams like Cadillac literally catching on fire. Here's what makes this interesting. One of the teams Sainz turned down was Audi, a team his father has racing heritage with, a team that's known to be contending for championships in nearly every series they race in, and a team that's outperforming Williams. If I was Carlos, freak man, I'm mad too. James Vowles nearly bent over backwards to sign Carlos, and now he may be losing his trophy. But where would Carlos go? Aston Martin is very up in the air. V-Carb is pretty fixed on their own internal driver development. Haas has a lot of other drivers already for that seat. If he tried to go to Alpine, he'll just join the endless waiting list of all their other reserve drivers. Then if he wants to go back to Audi, then he'd most likely replace Hülkenberg. And I don't know if Hülkenberg will get a seat after that. So then who fills in the Williams seat that's empty? Is there going to be an F2 driver coming up? Do they swap Hülkenberg into that seat? It's a lot, all in all. But these are just some of the most important conversations we wanted to have before heading into Belgium. Till then, I'll see y'all in Spa.